Man's really broke the laws of time, physics, and magic to turn into a zombie to tell her that she needs to believe in herself.
Hey, we're the Flick Chicks.
Hey, I'm Anne, one of the Flick Chicks, and we're going to be talking Doctor Strange 2. So I didn't think I'd have much to say about Doctor Strange 2. I saw the first movie and thought it was just okay. I didn't think too much about it. I enjoyed Doctor Strange's characterization in Infinity War and Endgame. I actually thought he brought a lot to the table. So I was hopeful going into it. I thought it would be interesting with Wanda being included too. But all in all, I kind of went into the film the same way I went into Ant-Man 2, just kind of wanting to collect the plot points and not being lost when the rest of the plot continued in the ever-expanding MCU. But after watching this film, guys, I'm convinced I didn't watch a Doctor Strange movie. And no, it's not because I think they shouldn't have introduced a bunch of new characters. I think the film manages to bring in multiple significant characters, but sucks the life, personality, and depth out of all of them. Let's discuss Doctor Strange 2 and how to not properly do character work. Obviously, spoiler warning for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and any other adjacent MCU movies. Now, let's start on a positive note. This film has creative visuals, the cinematography is really interesting, and I like when films are so stylistically distinct that you can really tell who directed it. But the film definitely feels like the whole is less than the sum of its parts. The film introduces three main players that drive the plot: America Chavez, Wanda Maximoff, and Doctor Strange. That last one is debatable though. America Chavez is a teenage girl who has the power to travel to multiple alternate universes, but can't control said powers. Wanda has been corrupted by the Darkhold and has gone cray-cray. And she wants to capture America Chavez, take her powers away, which would ultimately kill Chavez. And she wants those powers in order to travel to a universe where her twins Billy and Tommy exist. And also to do anything else, because if you have access to multiverses, the possibilities are endless. Doctor Strange is just the quintessential good guy who doesn't want to see a child die. So we have pretty clear motives for each character, but the problem with this movie is that the characters are their motives and nothing else. Let's talk about MacGuffins. MacGuffin is a film term originated by Angus MacPhail, where a MacGuffin is defined as an object, event, or character in a film or story that serves to set and keep the plot in motion despite usually lacking intrinsic importance. Now, with that definition, I feel like it's easy to label just about anything a MacGuffin, like the Philosopher's Stone in Harry Potter, or George Lucas himself called R2-D2 a MacGuffin, because both these objects/characters set the plot of their respective movies into motion. But just because something is used as a plot device doesn't make it inherently a MacGuffin or useless. For me, I think it's helpful to think about it in this way. If you replace the alleged MacGuffin with any other object and the plot wouldn't change in a meaningful way, then it's for sure a MacGuffin. A non-example of a MacGuffin would be Daisy, John Wick's puppy in the film John Wick. It's the murder of said puppy that motivates John Wick to begin the plot of the film, but the movie gives importance to the dog because it's the last gift that John Wick received from his deceased wife to help him cope with his grief, and he also develops a strong bond with the dog. If you replace the dog with a Rolex, the movie probably wouldn't happen. Someone would have to steal the watch, and then John Wick would just go after it to try to get it back. Even if you replace the dog with a child, we could also see how that would be a completely different movie. The motivations and reasonings behind John Wick's actions would change along with the events of the film. And even with that, not all MacGuffins are bad. They can be used in effective ways. For example, in some lights, the Infinity Gauntlet can be considered a MacGuffin. But I think Marvel did a good job at bringing a lot of meaning to the item by establishing in multiple films to what ends people were willing to go to collect the Infinity Stones, the consequences of that. So if it was another object, it would change the plot of multiple Marvel movies and characters. Also, when you couple the Infinity Gauntlet with Thanos, one of the more developed and morally complex villains that we've ever seen on screen, it really does serve its purpose. Because if you gave the device to anyone else, we wouldn't have the same story. When it comes to America Chavez, though, Homegirl is a walking, talking MacGuffin. You could literally replace America Chavez with a puppy that can travel through time and space, and it wouldn't change the story at all. She's a very one-dimensional character, and the movie really fails to make us care about her as a person rather than just not wanting to see a child die. This is what makes the ending of her supposed character arc even more unearned and bland. At the end of the film, when America is about to get yeeted by Wanda, Doctor Strange encourages her to believe in herself and to just use the powers that she hasn't been able to control for 15 years and the entirety of this movie now. And it works. Why though? Why? What has America learned in the film to earn that payoff? And trust me, I'm not above suspension of disbelief. My two favorite genres of film are rom-coms and sci-fi fantasy. But this is just lazy. If Doctor Strange had been trying to help America train in her powers during the film, and this was the last mental block that she needed, then maybe I'd be more convinced. But this whole time she's been running around learning nothing. So Doctor Strange's pep talk at the end feels unearned and silly. This isn't a slight to the actress. I think she did a good job with what she was given and tried to bring as much charm as she could to what was ultimately a pretty bland character and script. Who is Doctor Strange? Can you tell me his likes, dislikes, weaknesses? You can? Okay. Better tell Marvel, because I don't think they understand him. To be fair, I think this is a result of unforeseen circumstances. Unlike other big superheroes, we were only introduced to Doctor Strange in his film into a big ensemble cast with widely known, explored, and or loved characters. And he still managed to hold his own, but this only resulted in him being tossed around more from director to director like an unwanted love child. In the first Doctor Strange movie, he's a jerk, an arrogant surgeon whose career aspirations are tragically stunted, which causes him to lash out to the people he loves. Then he's humbled at a retreat in hopes of finding a cure, only to realize he's also that guy when it comes to magic. In Infinity War, he's still arrogant and ruthless. That's why him and Tony have such a hard time working together, because they're literally the same person. But ultimately, he does the right thing. That's why this whole Steven always needs to be the one holding the knife didn't work for me. Because if you ask me, in Infinity War, Doctor Strange let Tony hold the knife. Like, he was willing to let himself disappear for 5 years, trusting that the outcome would be the outcome they got, and relies on other people to carry out the doing that needed to be done. So I think he's come quite a long way from always needing to hold the knife. In Spider-Man Homecoming, he's still arrogant and ruthless, but also nice. He has a soft spot for Peter Parker now and is willing to cast a very dangerous, world-altering spell to help him. But he's somewhat ruthless when it comes to sending the villains back to where they came from. And I say ruthless with a grain of salt because in the grand scheme of the multiverse, he was doing the right thing. Still, as far as these movies go, the biggest takeaway from Doctor Strange's character is he's very much like a rule follower of magic until the danger of his own universe comes into play, and that's when he's willing to bend the rules quite a bit. And then I watched his What If episode, and honestly, it hyped me up to his character a lot more. Similar to another character in this film, he was pushed to the brink of grief and was willing to do and bend every rule in order to save the love of his life, Christine. And it had disastrous consequences. I thought that episode was actually a great character study. So in the second film, I thought maybe we'd explore his character in that way too. The film tries to explore a few big character themes with Doctor Strange, but fails at each one. The first theme is sacrifice. It's brought into question if all of Doctor Strange's sacrifices for the greater good are worth the cost of his own desires and happiness, especially with the love of his life, Christine, getting married to someone else. But the film doesn't expand beyond that. It tries to foil his character with Wanda, who calls him out for bending the rules of magic for his own gain, which is a corrupt argument because all his uses of magic were to save thousands and millions of lives, but I digress. Meanwhile, Wanda is willing to bend the rules to appeal to her own wounds and struggles, unlike him. But we don't really revisit that theme at all in the film, except for a fleeting conversation between Strange and Wu asking him if he's happy at the end. Okay. The film also brings up the issue of ultimate power and its consequences. Christine at the beginning of the film suggests Doctor Strange's controlling nature and how he doesn't let other people hold the knife, as I've mentioned before. And the film continues to explore other multiverse versions of Doctor Strange who have bent the rules of magic in the past for various reasons, like the one from Earth 838 who did it to defeat Thanos but ended up eliminating trillions of people and he was executed by the Illuminati for this. There's also this movie's watered down version of Sinister Strange, who used the Darkhold to try to be with Christine, which results in his demise. So all these Doctor Stranges are dropping like flies when they use the Darkhold, regardless of their intentions being self-serving or not. So you think that the lesson here is ultimate power always corrupts, and that Doctor Strange should find another way to, help America without using the Darkhold, which I guess he tries by going for the Book of Ashanti, which is the biggest MacGuffin in this entire film. But that fails immediately. And when we come to what should be the climax of the film, Strange is about to break the rules again and use the Darkhold in order to save America by dreamwalking, which is possessing the body of somebody else in a different universe. So he uses the Darkhold, and we're expected to believe he's somehow different to his counterparts because he lets Christine fight some ghosts. If you really think about it, all this movie has taught us is that this version of Doctor Strange is so special that he doesn't suffer real personal consequences for using the Darkhold because he has his girlfriend fight his demons for him, who, by the way, has shown no skills that she would be the right person to do that, but whatever. Again, this is a weak concept because have we seen Strange not trusting people? There's no point where he hasn't trusted somebody or asked for help in this film and wasn't willing to let someone else take the lead. In fact, we see other versions of Doctor Stranges unwilling to do the right thing and trying to consume their power. But this Doctor Strange is just fine using the Darkhold, and he's the same person that he was at the end of the movie, just with like an extra eye. And then after that, they tried to awkwardly throw in the other part of his personality, which is being in love with Christine, only to hint that he's about to simp for another middle-aged white woman in the third movie. Honestly, it's really hard to track the messages of this film, and if you've interpreted another way, let me know in the comments. I'm open to discussion. I think Wanda would have made a great villain. She's a complex character who's dealing with a lot of pain and grief, and to watch her demise would have been interesting and really good character work. I actually think it would make a really good show. Oh wait, they did do that. It feels like this film completely contradicted and undermined the events of Wandavision. Wanda already did some shady stuff by taking over the minds of people and using them as meat puppets in order to create this fantasy and appease the pain she was feeling. And by the end of Wandavision, she accepts her wrongdoings and says goodbye to her children and love of her life, accepting her fate. Now, I'm not against her turning evil once again. I think people can stumble many times on their journey to recovery. However, if you've already done something similar with Wanda, you have to make it interesting and believable for her character. If you're going to undo the character development I watched for 10 episodes of WandaVision, you have to show me her negative character arc from start to finish. Show us the progression of her descent into madness. But nah, she read a dark book off screen and now we're ready to have Wanda learn the same lesson she already has, turning her into a flat, one-dimensional character. I think Wanda going to the point of no return is so interesting visually and conceptually. I mean, her fight scenes alone, where she's using the full scope of her powers, are the best parts of this entire movie. And that's honestly one of the biggest problems with this film. It was screaming to be a Wanda movie. I think what would have been much more interesting is when Doctor Strange approached Wanda for help, she should have gone along with it, trying to help America learn how to use her powers, maybe learning more about how they work, which would have also given Chavez more to do as a character. Then the reveal that Wanda was the one sending the demons would have been so much more interesting and a better payoff. But it's a Doctor Strange movie. I believe they toned down the depth of America and Wanda in order to make space for Doctor Strange, ultimately ruining 3 character arcs all at once. Alright, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you disagree with me, that's okay, but you're wrong. I just wanted to say, I totally can see how some people like this movie. It's really interesting visually, and it was fun. Like, I definitely gasped and was shocked at some moments, so I did have fun ultimately. However, I'm a big character over plot person. I think characters are what make films interesting and why we continue to watch them. So I I don't think this is good, especially for a franchise that relies on their characters. I mean, the reason we keep coming back is because we like the characters, not necessarily because their plots are so interesting. I mean, let's be real. I'm worried about the way that they're going to continue these films, especially with these people being the leading characters that we're going to follow for a long time. I just need better character work because this ain't it, Chief. Think about it. America Chavez is set to have a Disney Plus show, and I don't think this film properly set up her character or made me interested in, who she is. And I think that's a real problem when it comes to the MCU, because it's compelling characters that make us want to come back and watch the rest of the movies. Like, I may have had a fun time in Doctor Strange 2 watching it the first time, but my hype for Doctor Strange 3 has plummeted to the floor. Like, I'm not even interested in seeing it in theaters, and I watch everything in theaters. I also think for the future of Marvel, having America is a little bit worrying, because with the multiverse, it makes the stakes pretty low. Like, when a character dies now, will I be thinking like, let's just go get Earth 234's version of, this person? So I'm interested to see how they continue with that. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna be doing a lot more cool stuff on the channel, so you should definitely stick around. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.
Boys, give a chick a chance. Well,